Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to the School of Personal Finance. So Wednesday night, in his first speech to Congress, Joe Biden laid out his 1.8 trillion American Families Plan. So in this video, I'm going to go through the details. I'm going to talk about how it might directly impact you. I'm also going to talk about the revenue raising side of the equation, how he plans to raise taxes. And even though it's really targeted at people that are considered wealthy, that make over $400,000 a year, or people that make over $1 million a year, there are some pieces of it that does really hit the investor class, the middle class looking to build wealth in this country. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the American Families Plan. So now this is the third proposal that Joe Biden is looking to put through Congress in just, the first 4 months of his presidency. The first one was the American Rescue Act, where, everybody got stimulus checks during the pandemic. So that was the pandemic relief bill. The second one is the infrastructure bill, which has not yet passed through Congress. And now this one, the American Families Plan. So if you take a step back and you look at the plan, the whole point of it is to help those lower income families, even those middle class families that are on the lower end of the middle class, because the cost of living in this country, it is becoming very expensive. If we look at education, childcare, the increase in prices is much more rapid than what we've seen in inflation. So it's harder for young families to pay for everything. Nowadays, you need 2-income households, right? Both spouses need to work in order to make ends meet, and it's getting harder and harder. Then you throw in the pandemic where millions of people lost their jobs, and it's been a struggle. So the whole point of this plan is to help those families and to give them some support and give them a little bit of breathing room. Now, how do you raise money for this? Biden's plan is to go after the top. And we all knew it coming into this presidency that Joe Biden was looking to raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans. All right, so let's dig into some of the details of this plan. So the first one is education. So what Biden is looking to do is to add 2 years to the front and 2 years to the back of public schooling. And he mentioned in his speech that it was a very long time ago that the U.S. decided that 12 years of public schooling would be enough. But here in the 21st century, we need to extend that. So he's talking about 2 years, ages 3 and 4 for pre-K, that would be universal, and then 2 years of community college that would also be universally paid for. So, that would help a lot of young families. It would help them on the front end when their kids are in school. Like I have a 3-year-old that's in pre-K right now where we pay $600 a month for, and it is what it is. And then for community college, we're all saving in 529 plans and trying to save for our kids' education. So that would take some of the stress off as well, especially for kids whose parents might not be able to save for them to go to college and they're taking out loans. And you can have those first 2 years of no college expenses. It would definitely be a help to a lot of middle class and lower income families in this country. All right, and then the second thing is on childcare. So this plan would guarantee that lower and middle income families would pay no more than 7% of their income on childcare. So they're saying that that could save families an estimated amount of around $15,000 per year, and that the average right now is somewhere around 16% of their income getting paid for childcare. All right, and then the third one is the paid leave program, which will provide up to $4,000 a month, up to 12 weeks of paid leave for parent, family, or for personal illnesses. And then the fourth part of this is to extend the child tax credit that was just passed in the American Rescue Plan a few months ago. It was only for 1 year, so they're looking to extend that now through 2025. So those are the main pieces of the $1.8 trillion American Families Plan. So now the question is, how are we going to raise the revenue to pay for this plan? So for Biden's infrastructure plan that he recently introduced, for that he's looking to pay for it by raising corporate taxes. So he wants to go from 21% corporate taxes up to 28% in corporate taxes. And he says that that will raise $2 trillion in revenue in order to pay for the infrastructure plan. So now for this plan, he's going after people that are making over $1 million. It really starts with people that are making over $400,000, where the highest tax bracket will be increased from 37% up to 39.6%. But then beyond that, there's some big changes for individuals that make over $1 million a year. So now the big one, and this was leaked earlier this week, and you saw the stock market drop 300 points just like that when the news broke, and that is the capital gains for anybody earning more than $1 million in a year will be taxed as ordinary income. So there will no longer be a lower capital gains tax bracket for people making over $1 million. So this is a tremendous increase in the capital gains rate. Currently, it is 20%. That would bring it all the way up to the top bracket of 39.6%, plus the 3.8% surtax on investment income. So between those two, you would be looking at 43.2% on capital gains tax if you make more than $1 million. Now you might be thinking that that really doesn't affect you, but I can think of a lot of instances where it actually could affect you. I mean, the first one being that it just discourages investment in general, right? So if you're going to be paying 43%, plus if you live in a state like New York or California, you'll be paying over 50% on long-term capital gains, which it just discourages investment in general. So that could take some money out of the stock market. People could be looking for other ways to invest money instead of taking a risk in the stock market if you have to give up half of your gains when you sell out of a position. But other than that, what about people who start small businesses? What if you decide to take a risk in life and to start a small business from the ground up? You pay yourself a reasonable salary, you have the business for 25 years, and your retirement plan is to eventually sell the business. What happens if you're able to sell that small business for $3 million in retirement, and that is your retirement plan? At that point, if this were the case, you would owe pretty much half of that in capital gains. So that really makes it much less appealing to take a chance and to try to start a small business where eventually you could have a nice payday and have a nice retirement. If you have to give up half of the value of the business when you sell it to taxes, then why not just get a W-2 job? Or even for real estate investors. So if you own a ton of real estate and you carry it through your life, and then you decide to sell something and it puts you over $1 million in income for the year because you've held real estate for 30 years, why would you sell it? Why would you give up that real estate if you're going to have to pay 50% of it in taxes at ordinary income rates, where now when you sell on any of the gain, it's at the lower capital gains rates? So that is another consequence of this where it could hit people, and maybe you don't think of that as middle class, but in America, people are trying to build wealth. So if you want to build wealth and you're trying to do it through building a business or through real estate where you're taking a chance, then it gives you less incentive to do that. Another part of this plan is beefing up IRS enforcement and going out and auditing people who make over $1 million a year and trying to raise tax revenue that way, not letting people get away with, not reporting all of their income, where audits have been down so much over the last decade as the IRS has not had the resources really to do it. So there's looking at beefing that up and going out and auditing people, that make $1 million or more to raise revenue. All right, and now another part of this is limiting the amount of tax-free exchanges in investment properties, so investment real estate. So right now, if you sell a building, let's say you buy, real estate for $500,000 and it grows to be worth $1 million. What you could do is you could do a like-kind exchange. You could sell that property and then parlay it, invest it into a bigger property, and you could defer the taxes into that new property. So you won't actually owe any taxes on the sale of that building as long as you go ahead and you purchase a new building. And there are a bunch of rules around 1031 exchanges. And then that new building, you carry over the cost basis. So eventually you pay taxes on it when you decide to fully cash out of it. But that is a way that real estate investors, they buy property and they keep on building up and buying bigger properties and building their real estate wealth. So what this is going to do is limit the amount of that 1031 exchange to $500,000. And what this is indirectly doing, it is going to force these big hedge funds and big corporations that invest in these big multifamily properties to look at single family homes. Because if you now just purchase single family homes on the lower end of the price scale, then that $500,000 exchange won't have as big of an effect on you. So now there's going to be more competition out there for people who are first-time home buyers. So I don't think that this is a great thing for the real estate market. And then another tax loophole that they are taking direct aim at is the step up in cost basis. So the way that it works right now is when you own an asset and you pass away and you leave that to your family, they get a step up in cost basis. So when they inherit it at the price at your death. So if they go ahead and they sell it the next day, there'll be no taxes owed on that. So for example, let's say that, your parents, they've owned Apple stock for the last 20 years and they bought it for $100,000 and now it's worth $5 million. If they pass away and they leave you that money, then you get a step up in basis. If you sell the stock the next day, you will owe no taxes on any of that tremendous gain. But what they're looking to do in this proposal is limit the step up in cost basis. They're throwing around numbers, but right now they're saying maybe to $1 million per individual. Now, some of these tax increases, they've been presented before and they really haven't gone anywhere. And right now, with the Senate being 50-50, it might be hard to get all these things through. I mean, people are making the assumption that this is not going to get passed in the current form, that there will be some negotiation, but some of it's definitely going to get passed, and we don't know what it will look like, in its final bill. But it'll be interesting to see how it all goes. And one thing that I've learned through different administrations and watching this throughout the years is like they call things permanent and they make all these changes, and then the next administration comes in and changes it again. So I do believe that if these changes do go through, that you're not going to see people selling anything. People are going to be holding, right? Real estate investors, they're not going to sell their real estate and pay ordinary income tax on their capital gains. Or if you own large stock positions that have gone up, I mean, the stock market has been ripping, right? So if you have big amounts of capital gains in there, you're not going to sell during a time where you're going to pay ordinary income tax. At the end of the day, I think that we all could agree that it would be great if we could give lower income families a chance in this country to do great and to be successful. So that is the point of this bill, is to help those people do better, to help give them a chance to really, get ahead and give them a little bit of breathing room in their lives. The question is this the best way to do it? Is this going to stop people from starting small businesses or taking a chance and investing in real estate or investing in the stock market? Are people going to take a step back and say, you know what, is there a better way for me to do it and find a different method that might be a little bit safer, right? Are people going to say, you know what, I should just go work for one of these very big corporations that are going to give me great benefits and a great salary and not worrying about the stress and taking on the risk of trying to start my own business and building all this wealth if I actually make it, if I actually hit a home run with it, and the government is going to take half of it when it's all said and done? It might not be worth it. All right, everyone, that is it for this one. I hope that you found that helpful. Please make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this one. Hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed to the channel yet, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks.